everybody, welcome back to Pages into the Past. So today we're going to start working on recovering an umbrella, and here is the frame of the umbrella. You can see here that there's no existing cover, so one of the things that I'm going to do is there is a tutorial by Bob Mogg, and I will link below. He has a tutorial on his blog spot, The Iron Tailor, of how to create the shape of umbrella that you have. You're going to run your wires through your tie-offs here. It's going to create a shape, and then you're going to cover those sections. Say that there's a big curve here. You're going to cover this section in tin foil, and what it will do is give you a pattern in order to create the cover so that you can recover an umbrella. So some of the first things I have to do though is I have to kind of get off some of this old paint. I'll repaint it just to keep the rust from growing. And then before I do that, I'm going to run fishing line. I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's a little hole in the bottom of each of these where I can run fishing line through, so I can determine what the shape is going to look like and create my pattern. Figure if I do that part first, then while the paint is drying, I can create my cover. And once my cover is ready, the paint should be dry and I can put it on, and then we shall see where we go. These little holes will be also where you tie off your umbrella to hold it to the frame. So wish me luck. Here we go. Hey guys, it's me again. Just wanted to give you an update on our umbrella frame. So what I did is I took a Brillo pad and I just slightly sanded some of the older paint off, and then I just took an acrylic base off-white or antique white kind of cream, and then I just kind of painted the tines here so that when the cover is on it, that the rusty spots don't show through the cover, and also to protect the tines here from getting too rusted out. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some fishing line and put it through the holes, and then I'll open it up and see how I want the umbrella to bow. When I was reading Bob's blog on it, irontailor.blogspot, he said that the first time that he opened it up, after threading it through, it was pretty much like it is now. And then he'd close it, take some in, tie another knot, open it until it was the shape that he liked, depending on how much bow you want to give it. And then once he got that shape, he was able to fit his foil to that shape to create his pattern. So I'm going to try to give you step-by-step here, because that way you can see what I'm doing, and if you find a frame that you like or a lovely stick and handle and it's got all of your pieces, you can be a little bit more confident on how can you do this if it's plain like this and you don't have old silk that you can use, make a pattern from an old piece. So I think for right now, I'm going to get busy started with the threading of the fishing line, and hopefully the fishing line will be stronger than the nylon thread I tried yesterday, because nylon thread did not work. I could not get it to hold or stretch. So now Bob's formula of how to figure out how much line you need is you measure one of your tines, multiply that by 12, and that gives you a start. And I think he might have doubled his, but we'll see. I'm gonna kind of go through and give it a tie off, and I have a piece of the string from yesterday that was long. I think I'll just base mine off one round with a small amount of overlay, and then I'm going to do a couple to fit through those teeny tiny holes. So wish me luck. All right, everybody, so I'm trying to see if you can see this. I've got my fishing line coming through all my holes, and so I'm adjusting it as I'm opening it. I think that's in a good position to tie off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie off my ends here. And I'm sorry you can't see very well. I mean, it's fishing line, it's clear. You could probably use string. I don't know. His blog says, you know, strong thread, but when I took his in-person class, he had mentioned using fishing line. So I'm going the fishing line route. And all right, so fully extended, my string is too long because I have a lot of slack down here. So what I'm going to do is I will close it up and take a good chunk, good wedge, and I will tie it off again. And I'm going to keep repeating this process until I get pretty close to the shape that I want my umbrella to be. Let's move these through a little bit here, a little bit more over here. What I'm doing is trying to keep my knot from ending up at my junction where I don't want it to end up in my hole here. I'm going to try to move my knot out to here from here. So right now, this is where it's tied off at, and you can kind of see that it's close. Well, I guess you can't see. It's kind of close. There is some curvature, but I think I want it just a little bit more curved. So what I'm going to do is move my threads just a little bit here. Detangle what needs to be detangled, because closing it rewrapped some of the line around the metal bits. And I'm just going to, now that I've kind of a little bit, I'm going to just take like another 2-inch section instead of such a big section, tie it off 2 inches tighter than where I had it, and see what the shape of my dome will be. And I know that there's specific words that are used to describe each of these pieces. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Bob goes into great detail of what they're called. You know, the cover is called this, the tines are called this, you know. I'm not too worried about that. All right, so now some of them are a little bit uneven. Let's see if we can get them moved just a little bit. All right, so now we are getting much closer into position of the dome that I'm liking. All right, so you can see that there's some curvature going on here. Let me see if I can get a little bit more black in there for you so you can see against the white. So you can see that there's a pretty good curve on there. It's not overly much, it's very balanced, and I think I kind of like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take aluminum foil and I'm going to create a pattern out of this shape here. Before I do that, I'm going to take a measurement between each tine and make sure that they're where they're supposed to be as far as trying to get them lined up, so that they're evenly spaced. And that means closing the umbrella, opening the umbrella, closing the umbrella, opening the umbrella, just to make sure that everybody's pretty close to where they're supposed to be. You know, if there's 8 inches or 12 inches between each one, perfect. You know, whatever the average is supposed to be. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to put the foil on and I'll show you what that looks like. I have moved all of my wires. The bases are about 14 inches apart, give or take maybe like 1/8 to 1/16. So I'm pretty happy with that. The next step that we're going to do, we're going to take some foil. And we're going to kind of make it a little tight. so that we can create a frame. And the reason that we want to make a fairly accurate cover is this is not a true triangle. So when you're looking at this part here and this part here, it's not a teardrop and it's not a triangle, because it kind of comes in a triangle and then it kind of bows out slightly and then comes back in due to the tension here at the bottom with the string here. So what I'm going to do is continue to cover this to create a better pattern for myself. Then I'll take this and I'll trace that out onto paper and use the paper for my pattern. And then I will cut one piece of fabric out and lay it over the top just to make sure that it's pretty close to the right shape, because you've got to add seam allowance. And then remember when you're sewing this that you're going to be doing French seams the whole way so that you don't have any raw edges, and the French seam will get hand tacked. Keep it moving around because it will also get tacked in the holes that the fishing line is going through. I'm going to finish that part up and hope that everything goes well. So here is what I have done. I went ahead and had the foil on there, and then what I did was I put the paper down over the top of the foil before I took the foil off and kind of rough traced on paper in black as to what we have. And so the black is the piece that I did, and then what I did is I took my foil, took it off my frame, lined it back up, traced it in orange to see how close I got. So not too far off as far as the rough tracing, and you can see it's fairly close. The orange is a little bit wider. I'm going to go with the orange with my demo piece just to see how it fits on and see if that includes seam allowance or if it's pretty tight and I need to include more. And if I do, I'm just going to make this just slightly larger and get started from there. All right, guys, so here we have our frame again, and I went ahead and I cut out of some cheap muslin my pattern of how this is going to fit, any changes that need to be made. Now, I do believe that this might be on the small side, maybe not. At least to hold it in place gives you kind of a visual. And this is how you're going to get a test fit as far as where your seam allowance, how much seam allowance you need, because you really do want your seams to end up along your ribs. That way you have less pull, and that's where your highest tension is going to be. So it looks pretty good at this moment. Some of this I can actually wrap over. So all right, you can see along here, not a whole lot of pull between, but that just means very little extra seam allowance needs to be added to this, and I can use this as a pattern piece. So, yay, that worked out. All right, woohoo. Now I just need to get my fabric and cut out 8 panels. Stitch them together, and you're going to French seam along every one of them. Leave your center open because it's going to slide down over here, and then you'll canopy it out, and then you'll sew it. Let me show you here. When you are, after you've sewn your canopy together, inside each of these holes you're going to tack down your fabric, going through that several times to hold it in place. Hopefully, won't take too long to get to that point because I now have a pattern. Yay me! All right, well, I hope this helps you guys. I'm going to keep on going and show you the product, but that's the basic of how to create your own pattern for an umbrella without the cover. So if you have one that's got a cover intact, you can just trace off of that, adding your seam allowance, which Makes it so much easier, but I like to do things the hard way. So, okay guys, I'm gonna start cutting out my main fabric. All right, everybody, now the moment of truth. So all of these were French seams. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it right side out. I'm going to slide it on. Now, one of the things that I did not do is I did not sew these all the way up to the very, very tip. I left myself an opening so that it can go right over the tip of the umbrella here. So it won't go all the way up because of the tension. And so once we have kind of a fit now, I can remove the fishing line. And then I'll attach the double seam here through those holes. And this is going to be similar to what the umbrella will look like when it is all nice and tight. And then up here, I'm going to do, at the tip here, I will make a little scrunchie and make it all decorative, fluffy, and put it up there and stitch that down so that, one, it's going to hide these, because I'll trim off the top, because right now the top has all these jagged edges. Cut them all off, put it on, and then the thought occurred to me that because we have this material with the holes in it, I might just weave some colored ribbon through there, kind of matching whatever outfit I want to wear for the day, and kind of just hanging those on the inside, making them removable. So one of the things I like about Bob's method is you can make your own pattern. The reason that I don't use any commercial patterns or indie patterns, I know there's a few people that I really enjoy most of their patterns. I've tried other pattern companies, and you really have to be careful or adaptable, because I did try one from one of my favorite companies, and it didn't work. It didn't bow correctly. And I'm not sure if it was because of the type of umbrella. Maybe my umbrella was too new, too old. It didn't really work to my expectation. And this one I feel will be a little bit better, Bob's method, especially since this didn't already have a cover. So I'm gonna start hand stitching that down. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back when I get it all done stitched. So I have gotten the edges stitched down through the holes, and what I've done is I've marked here with my little clips where I'm going to stitch and attach the rest of the frame. You stitch this to that part of the frame below the hinge so that it is able to open and close without impediment. You stitch that down, it'll help hold it in place. And then if you want to, you can do another stitch way up at the top here to hold them in place. So far, so good. It looks like a really good fit on my frame. That's what it looks like from the outside. And then what I might do is just take a ribbon and fill in part of these seams with a color. We'll see what it looks like. I don't know if that I'm 100% set on that or if I'm just going to keep it the way it is. So that's our next step. Finish stitching these sections there. And once that's done, then I can finish the top and then it's done. So I'm hoping you're enjoying this. All right, everybody, I'm back and the umbrella is done. I added this little decoration here around the top. It matches the trim here. I did add a little bit of lace here. So there's the shape when it closes. It's just a nice little, pretty little umbrella, and then you just pop it open, and there you go. And there is our umbrella. All right, so I really hope that you like this tutorial. I know it wasn't so much costuming, but I like to try to make use of some of the antique finds that we get, and I'm super happy with this. I will run a ribbon through just to see if I like it. I'll take a snapshot. You can see what it looks like. I still don't know if I'm gonna do it or keep it that way, but right now the umbrella is done. I'm quite pleased with it. So try new things, and if you don't follow my channel yet, just click that subscribe button, and that way you can get notified every time that I put out a new video. I try to do it every 2 weeks. Occasionally, like this video here, it was made specifically for the Cozy Symposium, but if you like what you've been seeing, make sure you follow me, or at least go back to my channel and see what else I've made. All right, have a great day, and keep on sewing.